there were a lot of excuses for the 49ers after this game. One of them that they didn't have enough wide receivers. What do you think of that?
Oh, Iggy, that drives me crazy. I because I'm a masochist, I still have a Twitter account. So after the game, fans, and they're different from us. They're fans, and they're entitled. But I got two things: the refereeing, the officiating was bad, and the Niners didn't have enough wide receivers. I got this so much. What do you expect? That their number 1 and 2 wide receivers are out. Jimmy had no one to throw to. It's like that mattered. I've said this before. I had a friend who was an NFL coach, and when people would talk about their team that didn't do well because they had injuries, he would say, tell it to someone who gives a crap, but he didn't use the word crap. Do you think the Rams feel bad for the Niners that they lost 2 wide receivers? Do you think the Green Bay feels bad for them? They don't give a crap. That's their problem. Every team has injuries, for starters. Second, and fans, this is for you. You mean to tell me, Iggy, the Niners have 5 wide receivers currently now, right?
They have 3 healthy ones, 6 on the roster.
6 on the roster, but 3 healthy ones. Well, when they made their roster, they said, we'll have 3 really good wide receivers, but the others 3 can stink. We don't need 3 other good ones. Now, who cares? That's not how you make a roster. Every spot has to count. People get cut. You have to have good receivers 1 through 6. You mean to tell me that they couldn't find someone better than Trent Taylor or, God forbid, Dante Pettis if it came to it? And Iggy, it came to it. So
it did.
What it seems to me, that's not an excuse. That's an indictment. That's an indictment of this is the first game and you had 3 wide receivers who you couldn't even, well, Bourne is okay, but you had 2 that you couldn't even use? Well, I don't blame the players. I blame whoever put together that roster. That's not an excuse from a fan. That's an indictment of the team.
Yeah, the Niners were relying on unreliable wide receivers. The only guy on this team who's done anything in the league is Deebo Samuel, and he had 1 good year, and he was injured in college. He has an injury history. They were relying on someone to step up, and Kendrick Bourne is fine, but he's not going to be a starting caliber wide receiver on a championship team. Dante Pettis isn't good enough, not going to step up. Brandon Ayuk's a rookie who sprained his hamstring in training camp, and God knows when he'll be ready. Richie James Jr. missed all of training camp, so of course he pulled his hamstring in the first game. I mean, when you're desperate for some guy who's done nothing in the NFL to all of a sudden become a star, this is what happens. If they wanted consistency at wide receiver, they could have just re-signed Emmanuel Sanders. He was available. They have cap space. Plenty
of cap space. So what they did, I don't consider it was putting together a roster at wide receiver. I consider it praying. They were praying. Is that
they were wishing on a star.
They're wishing on a star. I think so. I just can't get over it. So when people say, well, what do you expect? Jimmy didn't have good wide receivers. What are you talking to me for? Talk to John Lynch. He should have had good wide receivers.
No, talk to Kyle. This is Kyle's team, and he was a wide receiver, and he's drafted all of these guys. This is a symptom of his ego. He believes that he can actually pick these guys. It's a hard position. It's probably the hardest position. What's that? Yeah.
And how did they do on Sunday? How'd they do?
Dante Pettis, 0 catches. Trent Taylor looked awful. Kendrick Bourne, the best thing they got, probably a number 3 receiver at best.
Yeah. And Iggy, there's one other thing. Now, I know last year they did better with wide receivers, but my looking at things and not looking at stats, doesn't Garoppolo actually prefer to throw to tight ends and to throw to backs coming out? He doesn't all the time throw to wide receivers. So it's not even a relevant concept. He tends to throw to backs and to tight ends anyway.
Yeah, you could argue that the Niners should have won that game if they could have just kept throwing the ball to Mostert and McKinnon. That worked all game.
Yeah. Well,
as opposed to those passes to Trent Taylor.
Yeah, well, that's Kyle at the end when he cracks at the end.
That's right. That's right.
It was a mini crack. It was a mini crack.
It was a mini crack.
Mini crack up.
A mini crack up.
It's a mini crack up.
No, and what's interesting too about Deebo Samuel, what makes Deebo Samuel so valuable to the offense is how he runs the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, those end arounds are the best play in the playbook, and it helps the running backs because you do it at the same time.
Can I come back to crack up for a minute? Because it's cracking me up. We talk about Shanahan, and he demonstrably louses certain things up. He didn't do well in the fourth quarter of this game on Sunday.
Or the Super Bowl.
or the Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowls. And if you ever ask him about it, gee, how come you cracked up? And he said, I did great. I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
And they did great. Thanks. That's good. That's good. All right.
It's like if I were in high school and I crashed the car and you're like, what happened, Grant? Like, I wouldn't do anything differently, Dad. I mean, sure, I was driving 85 miles an hour on the wrong side of the freeway and during the rain, but I had a reason. I had reasons to do what I was doing. I wouldn't change anything. So,
but I take full responsibility.
Yeah. So take heart in that.